Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to my channel, Cayman Haven. My name is Gary. You can also call me Cayman. So I'm Cayman, this is my haven, so that's the name of my channel. Joining me once again is a very special guest. So my good friend, the very talented, very smart, incredibly charming, good friend of mine. Her name's Hannah. Hey, hi Hannah, how are
Hi.
you?
Good as always.
That's good to hear. Thanks for joining me again to do this video with me.
Always.
And today we're actually gonna review Mulan, which is the new live-action Disney remake of the 1998 classic animated film. Do you want to talk about your relationship with the first film? Like, how did you like the original animated film?
So Mulan is my absolute favorite Disney movie of all time. Being an Asian woman and seeing, an Asian character in a Disney movie, and I just love how she's one of those strong women. I don't think she's considered a princess, but she is considered a princess.
Yeah.
But I really admire her character because she's such a strong woman. She knows that she has flaws, but she fixes them. She trains. She tries to get herself better. And then the reasons that she does the things is out of love for her family and things like that. It just resonates a lot with me as well.
Just a great story in general, right?
Yeah.
So were you excited for this remake? Well, we knew that they've been remaking all the other animated films, but how did you feel when they announced this one? You must have been excited.
I definitely was excited. I think I didn't expect them to do Mulan.
Yeah.
I kind of expected maybe something like Pocahontas first or Snow White, one of the more older ones.
Yeah.
Because Mulan is, it's 19, what you said, 98?
Yeah.
There were a lot more older ones. So I'm glad that they did.
Yeah.
But obviously, we'll speak about that a bit later.
No, of course. There were three things that they decided not to bring back. So there's no Mushu.
Yeah.
There's no songs.
Yeah.
And there's no General Li Shang this time. And how did you feel about that?
Well, I know that, for example, The Lion King, that was exactly the same. I think Beauty and the Beast was almost similar as well. Aladdin was almost similar, I guess. But I think that the major changes that they did with Mulan was very shocking, considering that they did follow the story of all the other previous remakes quite closely to the original. So it was definitely shocking for them to get rid of all these three things.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, for me, I think for me, I was excited because we're getting a mainstream Disney movie with an entirely Asian cast. So I think that was exciting. I know a lot of fans didn't like the fact that Mushu's not gonna be in it, the songs are not gonna be in it. But I didn't mind that because I felt okay, well, Mushu and the songs are they're sure wins, right? So why wouldn't you bring them back when you're gonna do if you're gonna do the remake? So I felt like them deciding not to, rely on those two things was that felt like they were taking a risk a little bit. That felt okay, we're just gonna do something that's different and it's gonna hew closer towards the original story. Because I feel like if you include Mushu or songs, it would feel like it almost becomes a fantasy, I guess. There's fantasy elements. So I was okay, well, we're gonna try and adhere closer to a historical epic. So I think okay, that's exciting, right? It's gonna be realistic, it's gonna be more grounded. But then we have a character who turns into an owl, and I'm okay, well, that just went out the window. So exactly. So I think we have differing opinions about the movie. But overall, how did you feel about Mulan?
I think on first, it's going to be a very controversial opinion, but on the first watch, I actually really did enjoy it. But that being said, I really did have very low expectations of it. The fact that it didn't have Mushu's, no song, no Shang Li, and just all the drama and all the controversy surrounding it as well. I was kind of okay, I know this is going to be very different. When I watched it, it was great to see little nods to the older film.
Yes.
But on first seeing, I was okay, it's not that bad.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends if you're comparing it to the old version, because obviously the animated version, there's so much more emotion. This one just didn't feel as emotional. But that being said, I felt the same with Lion King as well.
Agreed.
Lion King wasn't as, emotional as it was with the anime version, and that's what I thought about this one as well. Again, just getting rid of some of the key characters and things like that. I think overall it was definitely emotionless, or at least not emotionless, but like less impactful than the animated version was.
Yeah, just lacking a bit of spirit, I guess. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the positives, right? I think for me, the positive, I'm not sure if you agree, I think some of the action sequences were actually okay. Like they looked great, you know.
Usually I thought it was really good as well.
Yeah. So I feel like it's trying to be like a classic Chinese martial arts movie. I felt like, so I think they were going for that sort of feel. And I think the action sequences were, pretty well done, pretty well shot for the most part. There's like some good choreography. Yeah, it just felt very cinematic. It felt like it was better than the Marvel movies at times. That might be a controversial thing to say. I think this is a beautiful movie. I think the costumes look amazing, right? For the most part. Like, the older cast members were pretty solid. Like, you've got Donnie Yen, you've got Jet Li, you've got Chinese actress Gong Li in it. The villain, Jason Scott Lee, who is like, I think he's my favorite in the movie, like as the villain. I thought he was really good. Asian American actor Sima, I think. He plays Mulan's dad in the movie. So I think the older cast, the veteran actors were like great. Okay. In terms of the things I didn't like, I guess I'm kind of like you as well. Like I'm not really disappointed in the movie because I didn't really have like high expectations going in. And I guess for me, like I didn't dislike the movie as much as I just felt a bit baffled and confused at some of the story ideas and message that this movie is trying to convey. And I guess we'll talk about that. There was not a lot of personality to Mulan herself. Like she's the main character and I felt like you don't really know a lot about her. You don't know what her personality is like. You don't really know what she likes, what her desires are. You know, she barely even has lines of dialogue at the start. Like she's pretty... Like she doesn't have a lot to say, whereas when you compare it with the original, do you know what I mean? Like Mulan has more personality. You get to know what she's like as a character. And I'm not sure if it's like, is it the writing or is it the actress? Because I'm not familiar with Liu Yufei. Like I've not really seen much of her stuff, so I can't really tell. I can't really tell if her acting was like not up to par or was it the script that wasn't delivering, I guess.
I would say she's blank most of the time. She's got the same face. I do think she's gorgeous. But she, even like if she was crying as well, it was, I didn't feel like that invested in the character of Mulan.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of the humor felt kind of flat for me.
I'm trying to think, did I laugh in the movie? Like I'm trying to think, but I can't think of anything. Like nothing pops to my head. Really.
There was barely any friendship developed between her and her colleagues in the army. Like in the original movie, you felt like there was a bond, there was a camaraderie that was established between her and the characters, and those characters were so distinct and memorable. You know,
I couldn't tell the difference between Po and Yao. I was like, wait, which one's Po, which one's Yao? I did get confused with that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Like you don't, and there's no time. There's barely any time spent between her and the characters, and even with the main love interest as well. Like I felt like there was just not a lot there.
Yeah. Well, did you know that there actually was a kiss scene between them two?
That was cut out? They cut it out?
Yeah, it was cut out.
Okay.
Because apparently when they showed it to Chinese audiences, the audience response wasn't great. So I think they did cut it out.
Right. Yeah. Because I think maybe they think like back in the day, like Asians are like very, very conservative, I guess. Like Chinese culture is very conservative. So
I mean, I also don't think it plays like similar with the first movie. I don't think a kiss should have been in there anyway. It's more, the story is about Mulan and her going to the war to prove herself to, I mean, I don't know what Mulan was doing in this movie, but at least in the first one, it was like, okay, I want to, you know, represent my father to prove myself, that type of thing. Having a love story wasn't really like important.
Yeah. And then there's just like scenes of character development that felt really rushed or skipped. Like, like her relationship with the commander. One scene, he's like, they just met for the first time, and literally the next scene, he's like, you're a really nice guy. I want you to meet my daughter. And it's like, we never see any relationship developed between the two of them. Okay. Just going back to the start of the movie, when the moment where the military sends the generals to come and recruit the men from the village, and her father is forced to volunteer himself to join the army. The movie barely establishes what her relationship with her father is like, what the cultural background of their relationship is like. Yeah. So when that moment happens, like a lot of the emotional moments just felt a little, at least for me, I don't know about you, it felt like they kind of didn't land. It kind of felt a little bit flat. Like we.
No, I completely agree. I mean, obviously in the movie, you see her cutting her hair, you see the process of her actually putting on the armor, her actually looking at the sword and things like that. And this one, it literally just came to, she's in the armor and the next minute she's in like the desert or something like that. Yeah. She really definitely just jumped from that. I was like, I felt like that cut something out. Yeah. I felt like there was meant to be something, but the length of the movie couldn't allow it to add this scene. I just felt like something was missing, and I think they did cut it out. Yeah. And because it was so obviously cut out, you lose that emotional feel of, of her leaving her family, of her leaving her dad, of her, potentially getting killed and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So you don't know if, it's just very confusing for me. Like, you don't know if she's leaving the army, like she wants to join the army because she's sick and tired of being the daughter that is just going to get married off. She's like clearly established as like a rebellious teen. Who wants to be a warrior, which is not what her character was like in that first movie. In the animated film, she was just trying to do her dad proud, and she felt like, because her dad was old and she loved her dad, and do you know what I mean? Speaking of the military stuff, okay, all right, let me ask you this, right? So there's a war that's happening. There's some bad guys that are invading the Emperor's palace, and you need to recruit young men to go fight the war with. So you go to every village and you go recruit all the young men in their families to come fight the war. Instead of having a convoy to go pick up all these men to take to the camp, right? You tell them to ride a horse in a desert for weeks on end, where they could potentially die of thirst or hunger before they join the military. Like, that's makes no sense to me, because don't you want your soldiers to be well fed, well rested, and ready to fight? Like, you have these men riding on a horse, and who knows, like, if any of them died along the way, riding a horse there. And the movie conveys that there's a passage of time because they show us an apple that's already rotten, and that's like poor military leadership right there. Like, how is your man going to fight your war for you if by the time they arrive at the camp, they're malnourished and they're half dead? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's because if it was the way that you were saying, where it's like, they collect them all, everyone would know that Mulan was a woman. She's lived up in this village. Yeah. So I think that type of plot point was kind of just to make sure that, no one in the village knows that Mulan left to go to the war. But I guess, like, everyone knew she left for the war anyway. Yeah. So it's kind of like, but like, I don't know. It wasn't very, I mean, I guess they did make it clear that she did steal the armor. She did steal the sword to go to the military. But in my head, I was like, maybe it was because she kind of wanted to hide herself. Yeah. Like, to differentiate from the men from her village. Maybe something like that. Yeah. But again, no, you're right. It's like,
they didn't actually have to send a convoy to pick them up. Like, they could just meet somewhere closer. Let's meet and we'll all go together. Like, instead of each, person goes by themselves and they, get stuck in the desert, hungry and thirsty. And it's just one of those things where I felt like the movie was trying to embellish on something that didn't need to be embellished. Because in the original movie, she literally puts on the armor, rides her horse, leaves the village, and then it cuts to the next scene and she's already there. Like, you don't need this extra bit of her going to the desert. Yeah, no,
exactly. It did feel very, it's like, why are you in the desert? Yeah. Like, why can't you just get into the camp? Like, I feel like they were meant to do, something was cut out. Something was definitely cut out in that part. Or at least they should have just cut out the whole desert scene, just make her go there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, already at the camp.
Yeah. I want to talk about my 3 biggest problems with the movie. Okay. So my first one is the depiction of Qi in the movie. Yeah. Is really baffling to me, because so the movie establishes that Qi is this sort of mystical power that's like Like everyone has it. It's some sort of inner like spiritual
like a life
energy.
force or something.
Yeah. Which like Qi exists in real life, okay? But it is not the way this movie depicts Qi. This movie suggests that Qi is like it's only men can, I think only men can practice Qi, right? Is what this movie is trying to say.
I thought that it was just everyone has Qi, but because it in that day and age that men could only exhibit it, not women, because women's place was to get married.
Was to get married.
So yeah, that was my interpretation of that.
Okay, yeah. So which is not true at all. Men and women can use Qi. Yeah. And the other thing that this movie suggests is that Qi can only be used to fight. Like only a warrior can use Qi, which is also not true as well, because Qi is also used in traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is when she's practicing Qi or when she's exhibiting Qi qualities, the men and the women in her village, like they frown upon her. Like they look at her like funny, like this is like not something that you should have, which is like, that's not true as well. Like the movie's trying to suggest that Qi is like this sort of dark, you know, insidious, like almost like a witchcraft sorcery thing.
Yeah.
This is not how Qi works in real life. They're just appropriating Qi to try to suit the story that they're trying to tell. Basically, the way this movie depicts Qi is more like the Force.
Yeah.
It's basically the Force, right? You watch Star Wars, right? You familiar?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Star Wars.
Yeah. So it's basically the Force, and she has the Force, right? Yeah.
She was way too just, I think the gamers were OP. There was like...
Oh, yeah.
Good at everything. Like, not good at everything, but she was too strong. It just felt like she couldn't be defeated in anything. Like when the fight, when she first gets into the camp. Yeah. There's a fight, and then, you know, there's the second time when her and Hong Hui have a fight as well. Yeah. And then the way that she kicks, even just in the scene where they have the marriage, with the matchmaker, and she's like balancing all those teacups. Yeah. Okay, relax, that type of thing.
Yeah. Like, and you even have like I said, it's basically like the Force. It's like you've got the light side, and you've also got a dark side. We have a character who basically is using Qi, like she's like Darth Vader. She's like trying to tempt, you know, Mulan to come to the dark side and stuff. Yeah. So that was like really ridiculous. And then all of that is leading to my second biggest problem with the movie, which you've already brought up, is the fact that she's so like OP. In the first movie, like Mulan is just like a normal character, right, Hannah? Yeah. Like she's just like a character who, she has no Qi, nothing. She's just a normal person. Mulan is just like, she's like a grounded, like normal human being, right? Like she's a person who, when we begin the movie, she's like kind of timid. She's kind of reckless. She's kind of unsure of her place in life. And a lot of her, like she has just a lot of uncertainty and lack of confidence because her identity is so tied to the fact that she's not a boy. She's confused about her place in life. She has no direction, okay? Her strength as a character, what makes her an endearing character is that she's defined by her personality, okay? And we see her throughout the course of the movie as she goes to the camp, she does the training. She dedicates herself to the training. Out of sheer will, determination, and discipline, she becomes a self-assured, confident young woman. Like she becomes a trained warrior because she literally wills herself to excellence, right? But with this Mulan, her character is completely defined by this Qi mystical power stuff. And that really undermines her growth as a character because she has no growth.
No, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the first movie is all about how she's, I wouldn't say that she's weak. Yeah. But you're right. Like she has the determination to make herself strong, but the willpower to keep going in order to go towards her goal. Yeah. This one, she's just kind of like, Qi. There we go. Yeah. One night, I'm practicing like my Qi in the forest, and the next minute I can already do this. Yeah. But with Mulan in the original one, that amount of time she's tried and she tried, and she is suffering with the when she's in the live action where she's doing that. Yes, she's suffering. You can see that she's trying, but like, and also the wit behind it as well, because like in the animation they're like, oh, you need to use this to get up to there. So rather than using brute strength, she uses her brain.
Yeah, exactly.
And this one is just like, well, firstly, she's a woman. To hold that up is quite
it's quite difficult.
That men can't even do
yeah,
as well. So what? How is Qi meant to help you?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make it.
Because the animated movie was so much simpler, right? She achieves those difficult physical tasks simply by sheer determination, discipline, and balance, and physical training. Okay. And so it's easy because she's trained herself to the point where she's able to do these things. In this movie, almost everything that she does that's extraordinary is not attributed to her as a person who's overcoming her physical limits. Everything's attributed to this mysterious, unexplained, supernatural power that she has, and that's it. And so basically what Disney has done is they've turned her into Elsa, really. I think that's how that's the only way I can. In a Frozen movie, she's like, she has this ice power and she's trying to hide it from everyone because everyone thinks that she's a witch. But then in the movie, she basically realizes that her powers are part of her identity. She's not ashamed of it anymore, and she has like the great let it go moment, which is what Mulan has. Mulan has a let it go moment where she essentially like casts her armor off and she like takes, she lets her hair flowing in the wind.
It's like a L'Oreal ad. It was just like perfect.
In slow motion. Like she becomes Wonder Woman, by the end of this movie, and it's just kind of like that's just not interesting to me. That's just not compelling because there's no growth to her character. We don't see her overcome any hardship, any challenges, any obstacles. Like we don't see all of that. And then this idea that she becomes a great warrior. So we don't see her, she doesn't have a martial arts or sword fencing instructor at the start of the movie. We know her dad doesn't want to train her to become a warrior because he wants her So all she does is that she picks up a sword, she goes into the forest, and she just swings it around for 10, 15 years, whatever. And that's how she becomes a great warrior. She just trains in the forest alone by herself. That's the equivalent of me trying to be a UFC fighter, right? And instead of applying for a membership to go join a UFC training school and learn from the professionals and do the training in the gym, have lots of sparring sessions with other fighters as well, I decide to go into my backyard and start shadow punching in the air by myself and do a few sit-ups, and then I decide to join the UFC, apply for a license. I'm gonna get my ass handed to me, So it's just like you said, the holding up the bucket thing is like, okay, well, we know that she's not doing it because it's her. We know it's because she has some unexplained powers.
Qi.
Yeah, she just has Qi. Yeah. And that's the explanation. And it's just so uninteresting for me, as a character arc.
I want to talk about the contrast between Gong Li's character, the Mulan. Both of them have Qi.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that they kind of use both of them to be like, okay, well, this is Mulan and this is the witch. Mulan could have become that witch, that type of thing. And there are many instances where, maybe Mulan should have gone, or maybe the witch should have come to the good side and that type of thing. Yeah. I think that I really liked that contrast to show that, Mulan could have gone a dark path. She could have just not, with everyone, when she was fighting and then her comrades run off, that type, And then, I think one of my favorite scenes is definitely the fight between them two as well.
Between her and Gong Li?
I don't know where it was. Yeah. And the fact that she's like, what is it like?
I know. The fight where they're in this like really beautiful location where it's like,
I don't know what it's called. It almost looked a little bit poisonous.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like ice water, but not really. It's like they're on top of this frozen ice, but it's all yellow, and it feels like a really, the way I describe it feels like a really nice desktop wallpaper that they're fighting in the backdrop. So I could,
But I do like the exploration of Qi, where it's like Qi can't, like, you are correct in the sense it's kind of like the Force, where it's like you come to the dark side and the bad side. But that contrast between the two and then picking a side, I thought that was really good as well. And the fact that it's, even Gong Li was like, you're hiding it. That hiding it makes you weak. You need to just be yourself. And I do like like this story does have a lot of good like morals. There are things to take away from the movie.
I agree with you.
And from that point, it's like, okay, you need to be yourself, otherwise you're not going to live up to your full potential. So I do like that, and how, like, you know, if you hide your chi, you're not the strongest that you can be. But she wasn't really hiding it. She was kind of just hiding herself being a woman. And
it's like her chi is so tied to her identity as a woman. Like she, even when she's pretending to be a guy in the military, she's kind of suppressing her talents and not trying to let people know, because it's like she's afraid that people are going to find out. I guess I understand where you're coming from, because I think that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to suggest that you are special, but societal pressure has place this, expectation on you that you can't be seen to be special. You have to suppress your talents, and that's her way of, I guess, breaking away from the chains of those societal pressures and finally allowing herself to exhibit her talent without being ashamed of it. So I guess I understand what they're trying to do, but I just feel like it doesn't work for this story. It would work for Elsa in Frozen 2, but I don't think it works here. Like it works for Wonder Woman, but Mulan's the wrong character to convey this kind of message. Is how I
fair enough.
Because she's because that's what's great about her as a character. She's just a normal person. She embodies the everyday characteristics of everyday women, everyday people, and she triumphs over her shortcomings by becoming greater. She aspires to become better, and we see her do that. And I think that's what's compelling about it. Like, this movie is trying to get across that she's a great warrior, and they're trying to show her do like all these like awesome martial art moves and stuff. Whereas in the original animated movie, right, she doesn't actually do a lot of that. She doesn't do as much fighting as we see. I don't know if you remember this, right? But towards the end of the original movie, when she's fighting with the villain on the rooftop, and he is like a big hulking figure. He's got like that really intimidating sword, and he's like trying to attack her, and she's like wearing a dress, and the only weapon that she has is a fan, which is which is like at the start of the movie, when she was using the fan, she was using it as like an ornament, because she was being like taken to the matchmaker. She was using it as this like very harmless sort of daily household item. So you've got this scene at the end of the movie where he's about to attack her with a sword, and she only has the fan left, and when he attacks her, she uses the fan, this weak, kind of feminine, unassuming weapon, to like dismantle the sword, and she like quickly turns the encounter to her advantage. And that for me says everything about the female empowerment and her strength as a character in the first movie. I don't need her to be doing any flashy spin myself into the sky and kick an arrow into someone's chest. I don't need to see her do any of that. I just need that moment in the original movie where she just took the fan, spin the sword, took the sword away from the bad guy. That was enough. That's all I needed and that says everything about her character. I think all of this, basically leads down to my third biggest problem with the movie, is that I think the reason why everything feels like a mixed bag is because this movie is not made by like Asian people. Like this.
No, it's not. No.
Like if you look at the names, like the list of names, the director, the writers, the production people behind the film, they're all like white people. And there's no Asian input.
Like, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if they brought in Qi because they didn't do their research to make it kind of just fit towards the age, to fit towards the Asian demographic. The amount of time that honor was brought in, or like family is definitely
one of the core values.
Yeah, one of the core things. But it just felt like a lot of things were kind of just put into there, not really thought about. Again, like I did say that when I first watched the movie, I didn't think about that through. Like when I first came out of it, I was like, oh, it's not that bad. But once you kind of have time to kind of
process
like settle down and kind of just absorb everything, you're kind of like, wait a minute, honor, family, Qi, witch, like what is that trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. And how
when you watch, you don't really think about it. I just want to focus on the movie. So then after, I kind of felt like, is this kind of almost pushing Asians back a little bit? Like, do we always talk about honor? Do we talk about family? Do we talk about Qi? Like, I never talks about that type of thing. I think on first watch, I really enjoyed it. But then once you're able to kind of sit down and gather your thoughts, and then again, especially after watching the watching the animation version, you kind of really got to like really organize your thoughts.
Think about it. I just think the values that they were going for just felt very broad. Everything is just painted with broad strokes. Like
I personally didn't like the what is it? True, brave, and loyal. Oh no,
loyalty, bravery, and truth. Yeah,
true. I didn't like that. I thought it was like, you know how like people put stuff in the kitchen where it's like live, laugh, laugh, live. That's how it felt. It just kind of felt like random words. Like I understand how it's meant to be portrayed, but it kind of just felt really. What's the word? Very almost cringy. Like use them.
And exactly. And kind of hollow as well, because there's literally a moment in the movie where, like, I think the commander says you've exhibited loyalty and bravery and truth. I'm like, when did she exhibit those qualities? Like, we don't see any of her personalities or interactions with people reflect those loyalties that this movie is trying to like hammer home with. So I was just kind of like, just really baffled. Like, it's just them trying to say this is what the values are, but we're not actually going to show her doing any of those, you know? So,
it felt a little bit shallow, a little bit cringy.
And then there's this other thing that they introduced in the movie, which is the symbolism of the CG phoenix that's constantly flying around.
Mushu.
And it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know what it's like, you could have had Mushu maybe, but instead we have a CG phoenix, and I don't even know what what is that? What is that meant to? Is that?
He explains it in the movie. Mulan's dad does explain it. I think it's meant to be like a guardian or something.
Guardian to the dragon, which is the emperor. So it's like foreshadowing her. I don't know. It just feels like a lot of mythical mumbo jumbo that this movie introduced. And then
again, that also plays a role. It's like the fact that they're these white, directors and scriptwriters. They're adding in all this like. Something that they think is Chinese or something that's Asian. It's
like, So exactly, it's like they think that we have this animal that is central to the Chinese philosophy. So we're gonna have her have these images of this phoenix, and that's gonna be foreshadowing that. That's how she's gonna realize her strength, because it's about her disguise as a man dying and. The phoenix rises and stuff. A lot of it's just very ham-fisted. Like, it doesn't really feel very subtle, and especially the moment when, like, towards the end when we literally see her.
It's actually coming from
it's like
the back.
It's like Rosé in from Blackpink in the How You Like That video, where she's like standing and we see the wings behind her. That's what I was thinking when I was watching the movie. Like I was like, this just feels so out of place. So it really feels like it's made by people who do not know Asian culture. The values in this movie, the message that it's trying to tell, it feels like a hodgepodge of Eastern and Western beliefs sort of all like blended together in one. It doesn't feel authentic. And I think that is my biggest problem with the depiction of Qi, the depiction of Mulan as a character. As an Asian person watching this movie, I'm like, this is not the Mulan story I grew up with. This is not... it's weird because when you watch the original animated movie, there's more Asian values than this. And that was like, what, 20 years ago? 22 years ago? Do you know what I mean? So... Yeah,
I just think, especially with the release of Crazy Rich Asians that came out, last year, I think I understand, like... I know I shouldn't probably be saying this, and I want to expect a lot more, but I think it's a good... It's a little step into the right direction. Yeah. We can't expect this movie to be perfect. It was only just last year, after how many years of movies with Asian representation. It's only just last year that
we've started to have
Asian. We've started to have it. We couldn't. I knew that Mulan wasn't going to be perfect, but I'm glad that at least we're still moving we're moving in the right direction, in the sense that at least we're having Asians in a movie. And I understand that it might be seen as a step back because, you've got white people taking control of an Asian movie. But I think that I'd rather at least take that little step where we can actually see Asian representation in the media. And I understand that it's not obviously the best depiction, but it's still something. And I feel like eventually we'll get to a point where we are happy with our movies and stuff like that.
I think for me, I feel like they just didn't try hard enough, because I read that they were trying to get some Chinese directors to make this movie, but the ones that they were going for weren't available at the time. But I still feel like you should have tried a little harder, because the final product just, pardon the pun, Hannah, but the final product just isn't a reflection of the original Mulan story. Do you know what I mean? And it's just. It's like, okay, yes, we've finally gotten to the point where we have Asian representation in front of the screen. Now let's have Asian representation behind the screen as well, it just really feels like it's people who have absolutely no idea what our Asian values are, trying to grapple with the message and then putting in their own Western beliefs and values into them. So that's how it felt. So obviously the Chinese response to this movie has been very tepid. It has not been well received by the Chinese people. There are some controversies that are happening outside of the movie itself, which I don't think we need to talk about. Were you aware that it had a very lukewarm response in China?
I think when it was it released on Disney Plus first and then it was released in China?
I think so.
Is that correct?
Something like that.
Yeah, so I wasn't quite sure. Even when I first saw when it first came out on Disney Plus, the response wasn't great anyway.
Yeah.
Just overall. So I kind of assumed that would be the same in China as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it looks like that's... So it's like, well, who are they making this movie for, really? Like, if you're not making...
It was... Yeah, if it's not for China, then...
Which I feel like, shouldn't you try to make it for the Chinese people,
I honestly think it would have been better for them to just follow the movie, like they did with Lion King. Or like Beauty and the Beast. Obviously with the animation one, Mulan didn't want to get married. So I don't think there was a reason for them to change that. So I would have rather preferred that live action to really just be the exact same. To be honest, if we were going to get this.
It's for me, I am mixed. I'm on the fence with that, because when you just try to remake beat for beat the same story, then it's like, well, what is the point of a remake? The point of a remake is you're either adding something to it, you're adding something to the discussion, you're elevating the material, okay? So you're trying to elevate the material. And with this, I feel like they're subtracting, they're diminishing, they're undermining the original, not just the original film, but the original legend, the story as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't want to do an exact remake, because they could have so easily done that, right? They could have just so easily done Mushu, they could have so easily bring the songs back again, brought General Li Shang again, but I admire them for not going that route, but at the same time, what we actually got still wasn't great.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if in retrospect, if I knew that the movie was going to be like this, you might have as well done the like exactly the same. Yeah. But I think, because I thought the remake was for them, not for them, but for kids of this generation. So obviously we've lived up with animation so that kids can get into these historic Disney films, but in a way that reflects how they've been watching TV and stuff like that. That's what my interpretation was the remake was.
Okay. Yeah, no, exactly, There are a few things I want to talk about. Things that make absolutely no sense to me, right? So I've already talked about the joining the military stuff at the start. The second thing is, we have them fighting in the desert, right? It's desert, it's bright, sunlight, we think it looks like kind of summer, and all of a sudden there's like a snow avalanche on the side. Like,
true, I didn't think
I was like,
that.
What is the logistics of this? Like,
Well, if we're speaking about logistics, how did Mulan get behind them?
Exactly, without them realizing that they were,
She's like in full red. She's not camouflaged.
Yeah.
It's not like the area is red, but how did she get behind them to do that?
So. How did she, and she's like, picking up helmets along the way and stuff. Like, surely someone from the trebuchet would have seen her doing that, So things like that don't make sense. And then the other thing is, you establish that there is a character who's able to turn herself into an eagle, right? And we literally see her flying into the Emperor's palace at one point. Why not just have her fly into the Emperor's throne room and just have her assassinate the Emperor like that? Why bother?
I think Bori Khan wanted to do it though. I feel like because the Emperor did kill Bori Khan's father, I think Bori Khan wanted the honor of doing what the emperor did to his father. I think that was the whole point.
Which is also another unnecessary backstory to that villain. Like the idea that the emperor kills brother, like that added absolutely nothing. Like just have him be a bad guy that's trying to storm the palace and trying to take over China. That's it, you know? We don't need this additional backstory. I just think to myself, this is what happens when you introduce elements like this, you know? Like you introduce a character who can shapeshift into a bird, and then it just makes me think like she just could have just flown in there and killed him.
I don't know if this is something that you realized, but the emperor was actually dubbed.
Yeah. No, I knew he was dubbed because I
was a little bit shocked at that.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like it's not like he can speak bad English.
It's
why?
Jet Li, right? Yeah,
it's Jet Li. He's been in like action, like Hollywood films. I was a little bit like, why? I don't know why they wanted to do that, but that kind of felt like a little bit of a step backwards for me.
For me, it was more like I didn't mind the dubbing, but it's more just like some of the lines that they gave him towards the end were just a little cringy, I think.
I do have another thing I do want to discuss. So when I first watched the movie again, so like there were a lot of, throughout the movies, there's quite a lot of like, I guess little Easter eggs to the old movie. So it's like, we'll make you into men. And that's obviously a reference to like, you know, I'll make a man out of you, or like, maybe like looking at the sword was kind of like meant to be a reflection type of thing. Did you know that the cameo of the Mulan's voice actor, Wei Ming, I think it's Wei Ming Na? Yeah. So when I watched that movie, I did cry in 2 instances. Yeah. Right. Now, I know that I said that the movie wasn't emotional. I wasn't crying because of the movie. I cried because the fact that they got the original voice actor for Mulan to come into that scene. I bawled. I was like, oh my God. So I did cry with that. So I thought that was a great cameo, a great, you know, way to kind of just, and especially having Christina Aguilera as well, you know, who sang Reflection was really good. And I did find at the end where her father recognized Mulan as a warrior. Like, I really like that speech that he had. Saying that you're my daughter, I don't care about the sword, that type of thing. I think that was really good. And I also really like the fact that he was like, warrior to warrior, I see you as a warrior now. I thought that was really good. So I really did like some of the takeaway messages. I do agree with you. I do think the message at the end, the idea that because the movie establishes the 3 values, right? Loyalty, bravery, truth. And then the 4th one is like devotion to family, which I feel like, okay, that's a nice beat to hang on. And I agree with you. Seeing actress Ming-Na Wen, when she showed up, that was emotional for me too. But it was emotional because they were pushing the nostalgic button for me. Because it was like... Yeah, no, exactly. I felt it was this nostalgia, not because of the movie. It was because
it's her. You know, we know that actress, right? And then towards the end, I think I was semi-emotional when the dad made that speech as well. But so much of that is the actor himself, Zima, is doing the heavy lifting. Like he's doing so much heavy lifting in terms of his acting in order to sell the emotion of that scene. For me, it was more like my experience with watching Mulan was as it was happening in front of me, my reaction was like, no, what? That's not how it works. Like that was my response. It was more like, that makes no sense. Like that was my response as I was watching Mulan.
For me, it was kind of like, oh, I'll make a man out of you. Oh, it's the avalanche thing. Oh, it's Wei Ming. Like that was me. It was the nostalgia for it. So I didn't really think about it until
it was like the points that registered with you were points when they were trying to recreate an iconic scene from the original. So I get what you mean.
I didn't hate it, but it was a good first watch, and I don't know. Even when I watched it yesterday, I was like, oh, I still had fun visually. I think when I watch a movie, I don't really think about it that much. It's only after. I didn't hate it. It was okay. That's all I have to say. Like when I first watched it, I really enjoyed it. It's not the best movie. It's bearable. It's a toneless Mulan. Emotionless Mulan.
It's just kind of, it's just kind of, I don't know, is bland the right word to use? Or is that too strong?
I kind of think of it as like almost blank.
Yeah.
her face was quite blank half the time.
Yeah. And I feel like her character as Mulan really encapsulates the whole movie. Like, we don't really know much about her. She's pretty on the outside, but there's not a lot in the inside that we know, or even it just feels a little hollow, and there's not a lot of spirit. And I feel like that is how I would describe the entire movie like as a whole. Like, the movie just feels very it's lacking a little bit of spirit, I think. Yeah. So it just felt like they were just nailing the beats as they went along. It didn't really feel, nothing really like registered like emotionally. It just felt like, okay, we're just going from point B to point C, point D, like kind of like that.
Yeah. Look, what Mulan, the animation version, was able to, I guess, like encapsulate within, it's only like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's like 1 hour, 30 minutes. The emotion, for example, you are really correct.
Yeah.
So like, there was no way that this Mulan was going to be better than the original one. There's no way.
Yeah.
The emotion that the first movie had, especially, for example, in the scene where they're singing, it was like they're talking about how they want a woman, and then it just cuts off, and then you see, all these
the devastation of
you don't feel that emotion in this one, or you don't see how horrific of a villain Bori Khan is, especially because in the first one, in the animated one, there's one where they get 2 messages, right, and then they drop them, and it's like, okay, I want you to deliver this message to the emperor, and then he goes, how many messages does it take to deliver a message? 1, and then they pulls that, like, that's dark. And they're like, that like, there was no way that the live action was able to encapsulate that type of emotion, that type of darkness that the first animated movie did. And I think overall, to summarize that, there's no way you should expect that live action to be better than Mulan. You need to watch Mulan.
Exactly. Which is what I did. I rewatched the original Mulan because I wanted to wash the aftertaste of this movie a little bit. Like, I just felt like I really need to go back to the original. And
I kind of did something similar because I watched it with my partner, and he never watched he's never watched Mulan
the
before.
original.
Original,
wow. Okay,
which I wish I kind of got him to do it before, but the day after we ended up watching the first one.
Which I think that's the good way to do it.
You kind of just needed to kind of
cleanse. So sort of cleanse.
Look, overall, it wasn't bad. There was obviously quite a few flaws. Obviously, we've discussed it, but
it was okay.
I think it was okay. It was just okay. There was a lot of flaws. We can talk about all the flaws.
Yeah.
The movie was longer, but I just felt like the animation was able to
accomplish so much more, right?
So much more in that short amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. And
if you want to watch Mulan, I think just watch the animation
just watch the animated versions.
It hits much better. The way the emotion is so much better, and I think a lot of people have also reckoned some of the Chinese remakes that they've done back then as well. So maybe, if you really want to follow something that's true to the legend of Mulan, don't watch this live action. Like, not even the animation version. There's obviously a little bit, like, there's no dragon. There are some, like, Chinese remakes of Mulan.
I think for me, it's like, if you want, you can watch Mulan. It's pretty harmless. And it's probably gonna be free on Disney Plus very soon. I think they said it was gonna be free in December. So just let's wait till then to watch it. But
don't pay $30.
Yes, exactly. Don't pay $30 for it. Rewatch the original. The original is still the best. The original arguably has more Asian values than this one, I think. And this is how I would describe my overall experience of Mulan the remake. Have you ever been? You've been to an authentic Chinese restaurant or an Asian restaurant, right? And eaten the.
I would think so.
Yeah. So you have been, or Asian food in general, right?
Yeah.
And when you go to an authentic Asian restaurant and you have a meal there, you can taste like the food and be like, oh wow, the flavor, it feels very distinct. It reminds, if you are from the country where that Asian restaurant is, then it would remind you of home, right? You would be like, wow, this tastes different. Like, I wouldn't be able to make this myself, but this feels good, this tastes nice. This Mulan movie is like, it's like going to an Asian restaurant where the food is not prepared by either authentic chefs or made with authentic ingredients. Like it feels like you're eating the food and you're like, okay, this is not prepared by a Chinese person. So that's how I would summarize Mulan as a whole. It's like going to a Chinese takeaway where it's food that's served for the mainstream people. It's not served for like the authentic Chinese. So if you're looking for authentic Asian food, you go to an authentic restaurant. Yeah. So if,
I really like that. Yeah.
That's how I would describe Mulan, like overall. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for watching our Mulan review. I thought we were gonna disagree on this, but turns out I think we agreed more than I thought we were going to. So if you guys have any thoughts, leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed this conversation, leave a like. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining me again to talk about Mulan. This has been really fun conversation to have. You guys can follow Hannah over at Hannah Trana. Yes, I can get it. Yeah, so Hannah Trana is where you can find her. I'll leave the link in the description. And then also, we recently did a video review of Blackpink, their new album. And we talked about our reaction to the album as well as to the music video, Love Sick Girls. So you can also check that out. I'll also leave a link in the description. But yeah, thanks guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, see you guys. Bye.